everyone, and welcome to Wholesale Change, just the webcast and podcast from Distribution Strategy Group, where we offer thought leadership for wholesale change agents like you. Because if you're on this show, you probably are a wholesale change agent. My name is Ian Heller. I'll be your co-host today, along with my business partner and the master of math, which is true. He can do like 2-digit calculations in his head all day long. Jonathan Bine. How are you today, Jonathan?
I'm well, Ian. So glad you are having a great time in Croatia.
I know I'm in Dubrovnik, as we say in the United States, speaking at a conference and moderating a couple of panels. It's 6 o'clock at night here and 10 a.m. where you are. So, we're kind of ahead of the curve here, buddy.
That's generally what I expect from you, Ian. So this is just an extension of that trend.
Man, I need an 8-hour lead over you, man, just to keep up.
Oh, please. But let's talk about your presence in Florida.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a sad story. So, we want to extend our thoughts and best wishes to all of our friends and family in Florida. And my dad actually lives in Cape Coral, which, if you look at the hurricane path maps, is like the town that's just targeted by the heart of Hurricane Ian. And my dad, who is 92, told me, Ian, you're welcome to visit Florida anytime, but you don't have to be so bombastic about it. And but unfortunately, we talked him into evacuating. And he told me he didn't have to evacuate because he survived World War II. I told him there's no connection, but he did go over to the east coast of Florida. So hopefully he's nice and safe.
I think you gave him good counsel.
Yeah. So we have a great guest today, Alex Tommy from Global Industrial Supply. But before we welcome him to the show, we have to thank our sponsors, without whom this show would not be possible. We have two sponsors today. We'll start with Epicor, a company that has been helping thousands of wholesale distributors integrate all their business functions into one enterprise resource planning, or ERP system, for over 50 years. Because of their deep experience in the distribution business, they get you and your unique distribution challenges. Their ERP solutions were designed with distributors for distributors. That just means that their solutions are built specifically with the right functionality for the distribution world. They're ready to use out of the box without complex and expensive customizations. It's one of the top reasons new customers tell Epicor they selected Epicor for distribution solutions over others. You can learn more about Epicor at epicor.com/distribution. We also want to thank Bloomreach. Bloomreach is the leader in AI-driven product discovery. Its site search and merchandising technology is empowering some of the world's largest distributors to deliver better personalized experiences to their buyers at scale. Bloomreach's best-in-class search capabilities are built to handle many B2B use cases, like advanced part number search, custom catalog searches, and the ability to adjust relevance and ranking based on the industry of each user. Go to bloomreach.com/customers and learn how Bloomreach drives value for HD Supply, Sonepar, and Global Industrial, who is featured on the show today. So thank you to Epicor. Thank you to Bloomreach. We really appreciate your support. Now I want to welcome our guest to the show. We're delighted to have Alex Tommy. He is the Chief Merchandising Officer and Senior Vice President for Global Industrial. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on Wholesale Change.
Ian, Jonathan, excited to be here.
That's great. So for you podcast listeners, just so you know, I have a little bit of a bio page up about Alex. And so Alex, I thought maybe you could, walk us through your background, where you went to school and where you worked before joining Global Industrial.
Yeah, you got it. I'm originally from outside of St. Louis, and as things go in that area, many folks go to the great University of Missouri, Columbia, and within going to school there, I was a finance and banking major, and shortly after graduating, I joined Walmart in their training program, and spent some time in the stores. Then shifted into a role at May Department Stores into buying. And that's really when my merchant buying career started, was at May Department Stores. And again, I've had various roles at May Department Stores, at Kohl's, Walmart, Dick's Sporting Goods, and Petco. before joining Global Industrial.
And when did you join in Global Industrials? About a year and a half ago, is that right?
A little over a year ago, yep.
A little over a year
The
ago.
end of August last year, and it's been a great experience thus far. I mean, touching a little bit on my background, I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about that. Again, spent some times on the front line and in the stores and learning the operational components of that, and ultimately understanding product and how it can be merchandised to gain the biggest impact before going into the buying offices. Where at that point in retail, the buyers did back when I started, the buyers did the selection, the planning, the replenishment, you did it all, right? And then
Right.
as things became more complicated and more centralized, and you're talking about a full national chain, then you had started the development of these matrix organizations where you had people who specialized in planning or replenishment and buyers, and you all worked together, to drive that business at your store. I also had a great opportunity to join the private brand part of the business, and I have to say that it's one of the single greatest experience I had in my career, because it did many things for me. It took me, I understood the buying part. I went into private brand and the development of our brands and licenses and things like that. And that was at Kohl's, actually, is where I started that piece of my career. And I could take that understanding of what a buyer needs to drive their business and understand how trends in the industry can help take that business forward. Also, obviously, being in factories, understanding how it's made, understanding the dynamics of global sourcing and how that can impact your business, whether you need something on a short lead time or you need something for cost and quality and value. Those are all elements that I learned in that phase of my career. And why was that such an integral part? Because as I grew in my career, having that multifaceted approach over management and teams and understanding of those different functions enabled me to take on bigger and different roles in my future. So my one, advice to anybody listening out there is take on those stretch assignments or take on, a role in a new function, because I believe to me that will greatly help you in your career as you move up.
Question.
Yeah, and go ahead, John.
A question for you on Petco. Does Petco have a B2B, like selling to veterinarians component, or is it all B2C?
It's all B2C.
Okay.
All B2C.
So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in and ask them. Please use the Q&A feature on your Zoom screen. We'd be happy to take your questions if you have them. So Alex, one of the things I was curious about is that I've never worked in retail. You've now worked in retail and in B2B. What were the things that you found in retail that were particularly helpful, or maybe the same, that you encountered when you moved into B2B? Has there been anything new that has surprised you, or changes in your approach or strategy you've had to make working in distribution instead of in retail?
Yeah, I would say foundationally, the answer to that question is no, because the customer needs to be at the center of everything we do, particularly, well, I'd say throughout the organization, having that customer in mind, and are the things that I'm doing helping provide value to the end user. I would say in retail, hyper focus on the customer, with different trends, with different ways to supply your product. It used to be you'd come to the store and you'd speak to them through a print advertising. Then there became an omni-channel, right? Or you're a direct to consumer retailer. All these aspects, created much more complication, for merchants and buyers and organizations. But ultimately, how fast you can get product to a consumer, how you can best, personalize your the way you speak to that consumer. In other words, through your marketing or whatever that might be. Consumers are mission oriented. Everybody is time starved. So how can you speak to me in the most effective way? retailer so that I can go in and interact with you very quickly and get what I need. And can the content that you provide me understanding and information? I would say it's very similar to, on the distribution side. Now there are nuances that I'll talk about in a second, but distribution, we've got to be hyper focused on the customer. What problems do they have, and how can we solve them with our matrix of products and product solutions and educational direction and help that we can give them, through knowledge centers or whatever that might be. We want to be a resource for them to educate them to solve their problems for them, but we also have teams that interact with our customers, on the distribution side much more frequently. That team, I guess you could say, in retail was store associates, right? They interacted with customers every single day, and the key thing was to learn from those store associates so that the things that we do in our offices, make it very seamless for them to sell to customers. Same thing from a distribution and product management standpoint, as we want to make sure we're driving solutions and creating solutions from a product standpoint, and then how we message and educate. There are nuances below the line, like in distribution. Historically, product manager, I think, has been the key selector of product and pricing. You then have a buyer that kind of does the transactional piece, and a forecast department, things like that. Retail, you have a buyer who picks and buys. And then you do have a planning and replenishment organization from a financial standpoint, but there's a lot of analytics that's involved in that, and buyers on the retail side are steeped in those analytics, as well as trends they see in the marketplace to benefit the customer. I think product management is evolving to that, is leverage, product managers needing to be more strategic, needing to leverage the analytics in their area to help find gaps and holes and solutions for their customers. So there's definitely some nuances there, but I think if you keep the notion that the customer is the boss, they're at the center of everything we do, there's a lot more similarities than differences.
Yeah, so I guess my assumption is that, generally speaking, retailers are more sophisticated at merchandising than distributors are. And part of the reason is there's a lot more change in SKUs on the retail side. I mean,
No question.
Yeah, because we don't have anything like fashion, right? I mean, we have things that are may be driven through innovation or by regulatory change. But
by season.
Yeah, but
Seasonal, for sure.
You may have storage products that are the same for 20 years, and I just don't think you see that kind of steady state with nearly the same percentage of your assortment in retail as you do with distribution. But I think the opportunity to add value to a company on the distribution side is enormous, and I assume that's what you found when you moved over.
Oh, no, yeah, no question. I mean, I think to your point, retail side, depending on what industry you're in, you're always going to have changes, and whether it's seasonality, whether it's if it's on the apparel or footwear, some kind of fashion side of it, you've got new products coming in every 30, 60 days, depending on what area of retail that you're in. Foundationally, key items, drive the business. And help pay the bills for all that fashion product. Foundationally, we've got a lot of core products on the distribution side and on the industrial side of the business that enable us to do other things. But yes, you're right. There's not as much turning through products, switching out product. There's a lot of consistency there, though. But I do think, technology, innovation is providing like this doorway to new and improved solutions for customers, and then how we can help craft and problem solve for the customer as well. I think what I loved, a lot of people ask me, my career in retail was spanned like 30 years, and so it was like and was in primarily apparel, footwear, accessory retailers, or sporting goods retailers, or the pet market, you have consumable and you have accessories that are fashion oriented, but also very utility oriented. So that didn't change, like a crate for a dog, for example, but at the end of the day, I think it's about how we can think about when we look at the analytics of the business, how different products trend differently throughout the year, and how do we storytell within those moments, meaning how do we create solutions for our customers to be thinking about, to better their operation, to drive efficiencies, to drive safety in their operation as well. And that's what I love about this business, because it's so broad. There's so many opportunities to do that. It touches the back end, the middle end, the front end, and everything, everything on every other corner of a business. And so there's a lot that's exciting. That's a challenge. And I think, that's what gets merchants really energized, is the products, innovation, and the solutions that we can create.
So it's interesting. I mentioned when we were prepping for the show, I visited my physical therapist the other day, and I saw your whiteboard with the private label of Global Industrial on it. And your Global Industrial is one of the companies that really focuses on private label. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's a very fair statement.
So talk to us, if you would, about what you can share about private label. I'd also continue with the thread of as opposed to retail, perhaps what you're doing with private label that's different than retail.
Yeah, I would say retail is where private label, what took a faster form as, companies built their own branding, and what that meant, licensed brands, and created that within their assortment to obviously leverage that value proposition, to leverage that exclusivity that those brands offer, as well as, typically a better profit margin as well. And so, Global Industrial is, I'd say, was ahead of the curve in many of that. We've been making private brand product for 40 years, and in many cases we have this saying where it's the extra chip in the cookie. And so as we think about the development, it should be equal to or better, value proposition. And so we may have a thicker gauge of steel, we may have more reinforced components within a product, or more ball bearings in a specific product to help it roll more smoothly or operate more smoothly. And so that's something that's been a pretty good focus for the company for, like I said, 40 years. And I think that it's an important element of our strategy, but at the same time it's a key piece. As we look at our brand proposition, we want to lean into brands that really matter to our consumers, and drive private brand equivalent, and more cases than not. And I think that some brands and suppliers may get concerned about a private brand development, but in more cases than not, where you have one sitting side by side, the whole the boat rises, right? The water line rises, and all boats rise in that situation, because you've got more critical mass, you got more solution orientation, and one may help sell the other. And I've seen it more often than not where all boats rise in that situation.
Sounds like what you're saying is that Global Industrial's approach to private label is to be more on the premium end of the private label. Some people take a lower end of the private label, right? Not premium products. Did I think?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. What I was trying to say, and if it didn't come across well, I apologize. It's really about value. It's really about the value add in there. It's not necessarily. I think as you think about your brands and your assortment, building out a brand architecture is important, and how brands play in that brand architecture from a good, better, best standpoint is really an important element. I think our focus on private brand product is adding value to that equation, so that as a customer, you can feel confident that it's going to operate for you the way you want it to.
Got it. Okay. We have a question here. Do we want to take that now, Ian?
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Okay. So the question is, do you believe there's a different merchandising message for retail interaction? I guess that means in store versus online interaction.
Well, listen, I think that we all try to build the basket, right, through solutions. I would say retail in more cases are trying to drive, maybe an impulse opportunity. Maybe that fashion item is like, oh my goodness, I can't go without that new fabric or sweater or print or the new color of the season. I think retail focuses on that kind of emotional connection to you and to stimulate you to purchase maybe that one extra thing. You were mission shopping, you were going into a store to pick up your kids X, Y, or Z for school. And oh my goodness, you walk past this product and it's fabulous. It feels good. It's a good price too. Maybe it's on sale. And so you're going to put that in your basket as well. Same goes true as an online direct to consumer as it relates to if you're on the retail side. So I think there's that emotional play that retailers focus on to get you to buy more. On the industrial distribution side, I would say it's all about, are we providing the solution? And as you think about the solution, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that pair of safety gloves or goggles or whatever it might be, or the light that goes into the trailer so that it's safer for the team to go in there, etc. So those are the types of things that we try to solve for. It's not kind of the new hot trendy thing, but it's the item, the program, that one SKU or program to help you build out your solution that you didn't think you needed. But once you get educated on that solution, you find out that you do.
Right.
Yeah, so you're solving a practical problem, not an emotional problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I know one of the things, because we had Barry Litwin, the CEO of Global, on our show, probably a year ago. And one of the things he talked about was how Global Industrial is very good at merchandising and shipping bulky products, which is unusual for a distributor that operates out of distribution centers. Usually that's, it's a hard thing to do. How do you go about thinking about, how you plan your bulky items and how you merchandise them and how do you ship them and, without getting damaged and at an economical rate, et cetera?
Yep. We are good at big and bulky. I say it's a core competency of ours, from the partners we work with on the supplier side, to how we work with them in the packaging and finding packaging solutions to reduce the damage rates and things of that nature. And that goes through a whole lot of testing and compliance, even through our own brand, kind of channels. But it's something that through the years, the company has found a real niche in our ability to package really kind of bulky items. Our DC distribution center associates are fantastic. They know how to handle this. They know how to, build certain frames and ways to, protect that product on pallet or pallets, however big that product might be. And I think that we've just over the years found a really good competency and efficiency in how we do that. And we're not afraid of it, and I think that's why a lot of our customers, really enjoy working with us, is that's a solution that we can provide them and provide it in a way that, gets to their destination the way it should be. And if we don't, we've got a great customer service to support that. But I would say we've been very good at that, identifying those products, identifying through, in some cases, the years of maybe trial and error to get to a really good place on how we work in our distribution centers, set up our distribution centers, and then at the end of the day, ship that out to our customers, in a quality manner.
I'm curious on your freight policy. or do you see any sensitivity around the pricing on freight for the big and bulky?
There's what we always do our best, to be honest with you, Jonathan, we do our best to flow through the best type of freight to our customers, whether that's through the providers that we work with. Depending on the sizes, there are different challenges and different charges that we all have to kind of deal with through the freight companies. But we've got a good network of those people, and again, we do the best job we can to provide the best freight costs for our customers.
How do you organize? Because you mentioned you have people who do repeat buys, and then you have I think merchandising people who develop assortment strategies, without getting into the numbers or anything. But how do you organize the merchandising functions at Global Industrial?
Yeah, it's a couple different ways. I think having deep expertise in specific categories, like trucks and carts or HVAC or plumbing or furniture, outdoor furniture, etc. There's there are competencies that you build as experts in that category. And so and I'd say in most cases we are set up from a category standpoint. I think the industry, is very similar to that, where you get an expertise in a category so that the brands, the assortment, you understand the gaps, you find the opportunities for newness and innovation, and whether that's in your partnership with sales or customers, where you're hearing that you can hearing about opportunities to make improvements, and you can work with your partners to do that on the product side and launch newness. And then there's a vertical approach as well, where you understand an industry. So I think generally speaking, from an industry standpoint, the expertise is driven by category, but to have a leadership and a strategic point of view from a vertical standpoint, and be able to penetrate a vertical and speak that language is a little different, right? Because it's multiple categories that comprise of that solution. And so I think I think there's an opportunity to look at it from both sides to improve the approach, improve the problem solving for the guest, for the consumer.
That's interesting, because if we tie back to your discussion about the product management side of things, in a lot of organizations, I haven't seen this so much in distribution, you've got somebody that's managing a sector that includes product, that includes a solution, which is essentially part of the product. And it seems like this whole category product management function in distribution is different than what I've seen elsewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe you just have the global industrial perspective, and that's what you've seen, but it feels like to me there's a big opportunity for distribution to have stronger category management along the lines of what I outlined.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's what you see the industry kind of moving towards, and opportunities to continue to improve, category leadership, but also, the approach to specific industries is really important. And then building the strategic planning around that, and how you look at a market in connection with the cross-functional teams that are out there really will help sharpen your point of view and your strategy within that category management, or within that vertical, however you're approaching that is really important, because there are many factors that play into how consumers will interact with you, or how you can win their business and win their trust. And I think that starts with earlier insights, earlier planning, and strategic planning to get ahead of those opportunities. Because anymore in larger organizations, you've got cross-functional companies operate in a cross-functional manner, in a matrix manner. And no longer are the days where a buyer on the retail does everything, because it's not nobody can handle all that. And the consumer's demands are far greater than they were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. And so when you're working with experts in digital merchandising and sales and forecast planning, private brand, things of that nature, you've got to plan further out so that the timing to intersect and go to market most impactfully is you enable that timing, you enable that planning and organization. Now, it's really critical to do that, but it's also critical to stay kind of nimble and flexible because the market changes all the time. So at the end of the day, being more planful should reduce the amount of fire drills, et cetera, et cetera. And then the way you go to market will be much more impactful than if you don't do that longer term planning.
I think that really leads nicely into the next topic we want to discuss with you, which is personalization. And again, what are you doing with Global? Maybe contrasting how the personalization in B2B is different from the B2C. Let's play with that.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. I mean, I think personalization is really important. It goes back to everybody's time starved. And so if you're sending me a bunch of information that isn't relevant to me or my industry, then it's a waste of my time, right? It's noise. And then once you get enough noise, you like hit that unsubscribe button or whatever, you don't look at catalogs or mailers or emails or whatever. So driving personalization has been, a hot quest on the retail side, but it's similar, on business, on B2B, because again, it goes back to like, let's cater our messaging to what's really relevant to that person or whatever industry they're in. And so I think what you're seeing is the capabilities of business to business, web, consumer interaction, where you are kind of customizing, different views or recommendations based on history, based on industries that they're in. So again, you're speaking speaking a similar language with that individual. Also, however you speak to them, right? So it could be digitally, could be some kind of print, or any other marketing way to speak to the consumer. It's always best and more effective to drive that personalization. Again, you're talking the same language, you're giving me information or giving me product solutions that really matter to me. And I think those avenues of speaking and teaching and training, providing content, education to the consumer for their specific area is really important. I think you see that more and more as it relates to websites offering, content, offering instruction, offering problem solving, as well as, maybe what's showing up in your mailbox or, at your company or whatever that might be. You're seeing more and more of that catered to the things that matter to you versus matter to everybody.
Can you talk about some of the things that Global's doing with personalization, either now or what you expect to do, say, over the next year?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. As we launch some of our new focuses and verticals, focus on things like the healthcare market or hospitality market, which we recently launched, we had specific directed contact information within the industries. So there's a couple of ways, are you looking at GPOs within those industries? So you're specifically speaking to that customer. Are you looking at, kind of contact lists that you can get to then interact with that consumer through, dynamic emails that have content that are specific to that industry. Catalogs that are, the big catalogs from the past are, they're very dated. So I think consumers in B2B are consumers. So how they want to interact with you, I think we've got to be more dynamic as a B2B industry, because, it used to be in retail, you'd be like, everything is, off this phone here, right? Everybody's going to interact with this phone. They're going to jump from the desktop to the phone or the tablet to the phone or whatever it might be. The same thing within B2B. They're walking around the facility. They're saying, okay, I need this X, Y, or Z for, within my warehouse or whatever it might be. And they're doing it on their phone. And so again, personalized communication that's digestible in the way consumers Consumers, again, from a personal standpoint, they expect a lot of that same technology and capability on the work front. And that's a way that we're interacting with customers to make that more of a seamless interaction with them.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because there's a reason they called those big print catalogs general catalogs, because they were general, right? I mean, it was pretty much your whole assortment. Here it is. You know, when you need something, you can look it up. It really wasn't a selling piece. It was a buying piece or a shopping piece, right?
Right.
And I like what you're saying about, look, if you're more relevant, they're not going to unsubscribe from you. You know, the example I use is I love motorcycles and I love photography. So you can send me the world's worst offers on motorcycles and photography, and I'm still going to look at them.
Right.
But if you send me an offer on baby clothes, I'm not going to even open it, even if it's the world's best offer on on children's clothes, because my kids are grown up and how many grandkids. So
and
you know,
baby clothes don't fit.
The baby clothes don't fit, right? So so you know, the relevance builds tolerance. And
That's right.
lack of relevance builds impatience and unsubscribe. So I think that's a very good point.
So you had mentioned really the personalization at the segment level. Are you able to get down to personas at this point, or is that in the horizon?
I speak more from an industry standpoint, and I think that, yeah, we're striving to get to that personalization as it relates to how we interact, or what you see when you interact with our website, things like that. There's a lot of improvement being made there, a lot of focus on getting you those relevant aspects of products that you're looking at, and or completion of a solution for you that you've been maybe researching. Yeah.
Great. Ian, you had a thing you wanted to share?
Oh, no, I already did. Go ahead.
So we have a great question here. Is there any thought from leadership about providing services to support the product purchases? There's more. This is a long question, but it's a good one. Do you feel that offering services keeps customers sticky so they don't have to go to other distributors to buy the products and get the services that now go with them? Or is the focus on pure product play? And I'm going to add a little more context to this question. I think this is a really interesting question in light of the sector that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in an inherently highly value-added sector. You're not configuring drives, or motors that have complex motors for some industrial application, right? For some automation thing. So I think the sector you're in makes this particularly poignant.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important to offer that value add. We need to have the right products. We also need to have the right services and support for those products for our customers. At the end of the day, if our customer have questions, if they need expert advice as to how to set things up or maybe fix things or whatever it might be, having a robust customer service element of the industry is really important for those customer touch points. And I think that's an area of opportunity and an area of it's an area of opportunity to continue to build on it from an industry standpoint. So I kind of break it down in a couple of ways. Can is there an opportunity to provide expert solutions and services to a customer that may need full kind of spill control or kind of safety assessment or whatever that might be, or how they kind of lay out their distribution center and things of that nature. I think that's a great value add. I think it's really an important element within the industry to build relationships with customers, to build that trust with the customer, to be able to provide those solutions. So, again, key focus on customer service, key focus on technical support, where you've got product that may require some kind of technical, added value. Hey, my scrubber just it broke down and need some support into fixing it, troubleshooting, etc. Those things are really important elements to focus on and accelerate.
So we have a couple more questions. They're streaming in now. So this individual's asking, and I think this gets back to your statement about putting the customer at the center, right? Customer's the boss. So since you're rooted in e-commerce, is most of your market research quantitative and data-based, or is part of your solutions focus using qualitative methods, with customer interaction directly to get feedback?
Yeah, well, technology is playing a bigger role, and technology and analytics are playing a bigger role in every company, whether you're in retail or B2B. And so I think there are, there are many applications out there that are enabling, better understanding of how the consumer is interacting with you, where they're spending their time, where there are opportunities from a product that it relates to the product they're looking at, and offering those solutions from a technology standpoint. And then kind of speed to market as it relates to new product introductions, things like that. Technology is playing a very important role in addressing those key questions that they had there. And so I think that as we think about it from a e-commerce standpoint, driving tools and enabling tools to help that seamless integration, and the ability for our teams to look at that data and analytics and provide better solutions for the customer are solutions that we're providing to our customers, and the industry is looking at as well. Hopefully I answered that question.
Yeah, I think it was a market research question. So, how do you get your input? I want to go ahead and move on because we have another compelling question here.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I would say that, the ability to do market research, to look at industry data, growth data, future growth data, those are things that are important for us to understand as a company, and to kind of lean into sectors that we see that may be growing, that there may be nuances in technology to support the growth in those industries. And so getting that kind of data helps us be better merchants and find new opportunities from a product solution, and also offer those to our customers.
Okay. And then as you've had more and more people working remotely, have you needed to change your merchandising approach in terms of the types of products, brands, and solutions you're focusing on? Or are you seeing some categories shifting more to B2C players?
I don't want to get too category specific as it relates to my own company, but industry trends, certainly our ability to do this right now is fantastic, right? You're in Europe, I'm in San Diego. Jonathan, I don't know where you're at, somewhere in the central time zone. But that ability to have that and offer products that provide those solutions for us have a home office, have that ability to work remotely, has been a key game changer. But also how the products that we offer to our customers to enable all the changes that we saw within the last 2 years, providing safety, providing those dynamics in the workplace, solutions for those workplaces to enhance the ability to operate in a COVID environment or a pandemic environment was key to the industry to make that pivot, and to be able to provide those solutions for the customers.
Okay, that's great. So I think we're running out of time here. We've had great audience retention though, so that means you've been interesting, and we appreciate that very much.
That means you've had interesting questions, so thank you for that.
No, it's been a fantastic discussion, and we really appreciate you making time to join us on the Wholesale Change Show. So Alex, Tommy, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Our roots are in marketing, so we love having a marketing person on here.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much. It was a great experience.
You bet. Well, thanks very much. We do have a couple of events coming up. I want to tell the audience about it if they can hang on for just a minute. On September 29th, Mike Marks, the famous Mike Marks from Indian River Consulting Group, will be doing a webinar on how distributors use CRMs today. This is the first in a 3-part series on CRMs. So that it will be an important conversation since distributors often have a lot of outside sales reps. That episode is that webinar is brought to you by Proton.ai. Then October 5th, we have How to Optimize Distributor Profitability by Dr. Al Bates, who literally wrote the book, I think 7 books on distributor profitability. That webinar will be brought to you by Epicube, Connexium, and SAP. So thanks to those fine sponsors, as well as Epicor and Bloomreach, who made today's show possible. Jonathan, it's been great working with you again. Alex, thank you for joining us. And until the next time, this is all for today's episode of Wholesale Change. Bye, everybody.